Hey, everybody. Good to see you guys again. We're back with our Champion Chat series, episode 3. So, we took a couple months off for the winter, the holidays, but we're getting back into it. So, this episode is titled Love After Loss. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But first, tell me where you are watching from in the comments. And if you're watching the replay later after the live broadcast, just type replay in the comments. But tell us where you're watching from. How's the weather out there, guys? It was warm, really warm, like spring this weekend, but I hear the forecast is about to turn here in Cincinnati. How's the weather where you guys are at? So, March is a couple of things are noted for the month of March. So March is National Endometriosis Month for one, and it's also National Social Work Month. So there are a lot of other things that are observed in March, but those two specifically are very important to what we're going to discuss today. Hi, Maria. Yes, it's chilly. She's in Cincinnati too. Hi, Aunt Daphne from St. Louis. All right. Cloudy and cool. Yeah. St. Louis usually has the same weather we do. Hi, Denise. All right. So as you guys are coming into the live, why don't you drop a heart in the comments if you yourself or if you know anybody, a friend or a family who's been affected by infertility. So if that applies to you or you know anybody that applies to, go ahead and drop a heart in the comments. So let me talk a little bit about our guests today, and then we're going to bring them on camera. So I went to church as a young girl with a girl named Reese, as I'll say. That's not her real name. That's what we call her. I don't know if they still call her that, but we'll ask her. And she is married to her wonderful husband, John. And they're going to talk to us about some of their life experiences today. So welcome them. We're going to bring them on camera now. Hi, John and Reese.
Hello.
How you doing?
Hey, guys. How are you? We're so glad you're here.
Thank you for having us.
So, question. So, answer the question. Are you Reese nowadays? Are you Larissa? Like you're an adult now?
I
What
am
is this?
still Reese.
Oh.
I am still Reese.
Can't get rid of those nicknames.
Not at all.
John, you have any nicknames?
Ma'am.
You have any nicknames?
Well, my mother's watching, so
Oh, well, I'm sure she gave you one or two.
we're gonna say John would be one.
Okay.
I won't share my family nickname, but Mom, don't put it in the chat.
Don't do it, Mom. Don't do it. All right. So me and Reese grew up in church together. We praise dance together for sure. Reese, you didn't sing in the choir, right?
Yes, I did. I just
You
wasn't
did?
I was a soprano.
Oh. So I was alto and you were soprano?
Yes.
Oh, well. My mind's going. I'm 41. My mind is going. Okay, so we sang in the choir. We praise dance together. So we used to have sleepovers, do all the things little young preteens and teens do. We had a great time. Reese,
Yes, ma'am.
memory. Tell the people something they don't know about me from our younger days growing up.
So, when you asked me this question, and one story stuck in my head is when Booty Call came out.
Oh,
and
Lord.
Your dad lectured us for about 2 hours on why we wanted to go see a movie called Booty Call. Thank God for a beautiful woman named Jocelyn. We were able to go see Booty Call.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So my dad was our pastor. A little clarification for y'all that didn't know. Maria is shocked to hear this story. Maria went to church with us too. Oh gosh. My mama let us go see Booty Call. My daddy was trying to block us. But we got to go. That's funny.
That's hilarious.
I believe he would do the same thing today.
I do too.
Yeah. Yeah.
His nature is still the same. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now my kids get it, so the grandkids get it now. All right. So you know a little bit about both of us, how we have been connected in the past, but then we grew up, got married, uh, all of that sort of thing that happens as you progress in life. And Reese and John, y'all met somehow. So John, what's the story?
Simple as we met in church. Uh,
Okay.
we attended the same church. She don't like to be honest, but she noticed me first. Uh,
Wow.
don't don't lie to the people. And the rest is history.
So she was sweating you basically.
We're not gonna.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He didn't think that part of his story he just made up through. So he don't want to discuss
No.
it no more.
Okay.
No, actually, I noticed her first, and we we have found out we had some stuff in common,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my brother right there.
Jay
Uh,
Curtis.
yes, yeah, and we found out we had some stuff in common, and from there we've been together ever since. From the
Cool.
first date at Dave and Buster's.
Dave and Buster's. Dave and Buster's to here. Now we here. All right. So you got married. How long you been married?
It'll be 9 years in May.
All right. 9 years. So you got married, and at some point you sought the help of a fertility doctor. So I'll talk about how I went on my fertility journey, and then tell me like kind of like how you even arrived to the point where you thought that was necessary or that was a step you needed to take. So I would have bouts where I would have excruciating pain monthly during my cycle, and at one point it was so bad I went to the ER. Like I couldn't even walk. My mom had to drive me to the ER. We didn't know what was going on. I don't know if my appendix burst or whatever. And after all the scans and testing and everything, the doctor came in and said, you just need to follow up with your OBGYN. And I'm like, this pain like this is because of my OB. Like, what? So it was really bad. I ended up finding out I had like stage 4 endometriosis, which, like, if you think in cancer, stage 4 is like the worst. So endometriosis was like the way I had it was like the worst my doctor had ever seen. I had recurring fibroids. I'd had them removed a couple of times and they kept growing back. So at that point, I chose to get connected with a fertility doctor, and I was able to do IVF and was able to have my kids that way. But Reese, how did you even get to the point where you said maybe we should talk to a doctor?
It was very random. I remember it very vividly, and we was talking. I was like, maybe I can't have kids naturally, and he was like, yes, you can. Shut up, pretty much. And I'm like, for real? I said, I'm gonna go to the doctor and find out. So I went to my OBGYN. She did some tests. I did different tests for about 2 months, and I remember January 31st, 2015 was the day I found out that I had a blockage in my fallopian tubes. Mm-hmm. I was referred to an infertility specialist, Dr. Michael Thomas.
My doctor too.
I know. So we made an appointment and we went to have a consultation, and we left out of there, had already given blood, and everything just went so fast. But through that, I learned that I had a blockage in my tubes. We didn't do much research from that point. We just, okay, IVF it is. Mm-hmm. So we started our journey with IVF. And it was a hard journey in the beginning because I developed ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. I was overstimulated and I was hospitalized because my body was retaining fluid. Mm-hmm. It even spread to my lungs. So I had a thoracentesis and a paracentesis to remove the fluid. And while I was in the hospital, we learned that the embryos had latched and I was pregnant. For the first almost 2 months, it was only one embryo. It was only one baby, one heartbeat. And Dr. Thomas had been out of town. And I go in for a sonogram. He's like, "Oh, baby A." And I was like, "Ain't no baby B." He was like, "Yes, so baby B was hiding, or they just mimicked, their heartbeats was mimicking. Not really sure. But from the beginning, from that point on, he was always concerned with baby B, who name is actually Journey. But
so that's interesting because I didn't know we had that similarity in our story because so I did one cycle of IVF and the first round produced one pregnancy, one baby. And I had some embryos that were frozen to unthaw and use later. So the second time around, the unthawed embryos, they put in two, and I was starting to hemorrhage probably a couple of weeks later. And I knew for sure I was having a miscarriage. I'm like, okay, like this is over. So I had an emergency appointment like on a Saturday in Dr. Thomas's office, and they did the ultrasound, and they said, "Well, you are having a miscarriage, but the other baby looks fine." I'm like, "The other baby? Like I didn't even know there were two." So that's interesting. We both had like surprise, like, no, there's just one. Nope, there's two.
Yeah. Yeah, that was very surprising. Throughout the beginning, I was in the hospital the first time for 10 days. I went home for 2, then went back for 7 more. And I remember when I finally went back to the doctor's office, they was like, "It's so good to see you in regular clothes versus a hospital gown." And from there, I was pregnant with twins. But again, Dr. Thomas, he was concerned with baby B, and they wanted to do, all these testings and things like that. And John and I were like, nope. However she would be born with, we was willing to accept her or him or her as is. I was already considered high risk, of course, because of IVF and then being pregnant with twins. So I went to the doctor every week. Every Friday. It was every Friday.
John, how was that for you watching her like being in the hospital?
To be honest with you, it was rough. One, having to try to maintain a home, and then also go to work and not try to worry about your wife, and then getting phone calls. You need to get to the hospital, and worried about if you still gonna have a job when you get back.
That's real.
My main concern was always her, and making sure she was okay. And as I would tell her, we got to trust God that no matter how this plays out, He gonna take care of us. It was a lot of long nights of crying, anger, frustration, but the main thing is that we've kept from day one that we gonna support each other through hell or high water. And we gonna be there with each other, and we gonna ride for each other. And so when I took my vows, for better for worse, I had to stand by her side.
Preach, John. Y'all know he's a preacher. Come on, John. Come on.
And so that's one thing that my parents who are online watching, they instilled in me. If this is what you're gonna do, stand by our side. And so that's what I did. I took off work and told my boss, "Hey, my wife need me." And unfortunately, I had a boss at the time who understood your family come first.
Right.
I'll make sure you keep a check, but you go take care of your wife and be there for her because she needs you more than we do here. So
right. So that's faith. Of course, all people of faith. Sometimes we know we got to step on out there, but faith, like, look, telling your job, like, I know I'm really not supposed to be taking off like this, but I need to, and my wife. And thank God that you had an understanding boss in a situation like that. So, Reese, I know that was comforting, I'm sure, to see that he was ready to just drop everything and be with you. Because were you on bed rest at this point or not yet?
So yes, I was on bed rest because my body was still retaining fluid, and when they had did the paracentesis, they had hit a nerve. So then I had a hematoma, and because I was pregnant, they couldn't do anything about the hematoma. So I was just big on the left side, left foot, left leg. Everything was just really big. So I was on bed rest. And he did take good care of me, except for when I vomit, because he doesn't do vomit well. I had to clean it up myself.
Oh no.
Oh, he does not do vomit. He would get the cleaning supplies, but I was on my own. He was like, "Here you go."
We both would have been sick.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, it was a journey, but we also had a good support system from our family that would help out, and whatever it needed to be. And it was always, everyone would always say, "How's Reese? How's Reese?" But no one would say, "How's John?"
Yeah.
So, but he internalizes. So I knew that he would internalize things, but I know that when he got to that point that he would reach out to someone to talk to. More than likely, it would either be J. Curtis Williams that's on here or his dad.
Okay. So, John, is that who you turned to? Like when you needed to just vent or let some steam off your family?
Yes. I think one of the hardest things, I don't know who I was watching and how many people have been through this situation. I will, if I can speak to the men on here who are either going through this or have been through this, one of the hardest things, to be honest, was when people tell you to be the strong person, be there for your spouse, or you be strong for her. When you being strong, it's hard to find somebody else to lean on when you need to vent. One, because in trying to be strong for her, I didn't want her to see me break down,
Mm-hmm.
and so I would try to hide that. But then I had to realize this is my wife. If anybody
Yeah.
can see me cry, it should be her. And so,
Right.
um, so my inner circle outside of Reese would be my friend who's on here now, one of my best friends who's on here now, and my parents and one of the deacons from the church at the time. And so that's who I leaned on. And when I had those questions, why us? Why
Mm-hmm.
are we going through this? Um, how do I how do I be there for her? And so I really had to trust them to vent, cry when I was angry. They let me, for lack of better words, they let me be naked or transparent with them to show
Right.
that hey son, hey bro, you got it, man. We here for you. You don't have to do this by yourself. Y'all not alone. So I had to be
Right.
vulnerable enough and open enough to trust the people that God surrounded us with, to one, as I'm pouring into her, let them pour into me and not try to internalize.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's so important. Just as men, and especially Black men, I feel like they don't have a lot of outlets to just feel whatever they're feeling, and everybody's got to be so strong, um and Black women too, and not just Black people, but kind of specifically to Black people, we really just kind of take the weight of the world on our shoulder, and we're just expected to keep it moving. Like even my example, that what I was saying, when I was in so much pain and I went to the ER, um, some women would think like that's just normal. Like you're just supposed to go through that much pain every month, and you just deal with it. Not realizing if you go to a doctor, your doctor's going to tell you, sweetheart, that's not normal.
Right.
You're not supposed to be in pain like that every month, and you need to go to the doctor and figure out what's going on. So from a physical standpoint and a mental standpoint, I think it's just really important for all of us just to take the time to notice and to feel when you're not okay, and talk to whoever you need to talk to. So Reese, tell us, well, both of you, about the rest of the pregnancy, like how things progressed from there.
I mean, the rest of the pregnancy was pretty good. Again, I was high risk, so I was always going to the doctor. Up until we reached week 22. August 22nd, I went to my doctor's appointment. Everything was fine. Came home and I'm using the bathroom and I'm like, John, I might need to go to the hospital. He's like, for what? I'm like, I'm spotting. He's like, oh, you all right? I'm like, no, for real. So we went, and I was in premature labor. There was, it was hard. It became hard at that point because they're like, if we don't stop the pregnancy, stop this miscarriage, stop the contraction, stop everything, you're going to lose these babies. And I cussed out a few nurses and doctors and told them to get out of my room. Just trying to understand things and just being frustrated with everything. But ultimately, they did stop the contractions, and I was transported to a labor and delivery room where they said this is going to be my home until these babies come, in which I did good for a while, with a lot of our family around, a whole lot of our family.
Yeah.
Like to the point they were like, you have too many people here. They were like, well, we're not leaving. We're just going to swap out. We're going to the waiting room, tag you go in.
Right. Right.
And I started labor on August 22nd. They put me in a room. John had to preach that Sunday. He went to go preach, and my mom's, all three of them was in a room with me. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta pee. So they let me go pee, and I knew that my water broke, but I didn't say anything because I knew he was preaching. I was going to hold on to it. I knew he was on his way to the church, to the hospital before I could say anything. But ultimately, I went into labor again, and they went flying me down the hall. And again, they went back to, if you had these babies today, they're not going to survive. And having private conversations with him and the family. Because what happened is that baby B, who they had a concern with from the beginning, Journey, her sac had ruptured, which was causing an infection. And they were trying to save baby A, but they could not get them to switch places. Baby A would not move. So ultimately their goal was to try and save at least baby A. And everybody had been to the hospital since Friday. It's now Sunday. And baby, I'm in labor. My water broke, but still no baby. Everyone like, I'm going to go home, take showers. I'm going to go get some rest. And he went downstairs to get something out the car. And I'm like, the baby's coming. And I'm like, call John. The baby's coming.
Yeah. Hurry up.
Yeah. He made it back. He did make it back. And baby A, which is Joy, she was born. And at this point, my body went into shock because I still had the infection with baby B. So they had to make some quick decisions. And at this point, they wanted to increase my labor to try and make baby B come out, but she was stubborn. She didn't come out for 8 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So she then was born on the 24th. So they were born on 2 different days, but so at that point, it was a lot.
Yeah.
I kind of left out a whole lot, but it was a lot for the sake of time. When baby B, when Journey was born, it was just John and I in the room. He was sitting in the chair asleep. And I said, John, the baby coming. And before he could even push the button, she was laying there.
Wow.
But the hospital allowed us to keep Joy in the room with us because they were twins. But at this point she had already expired, but she was still in the room with us. Joy lived 3 hours and 7 minutes. Journey only lived 5 minutes. But those 54 hours of labor brought, I think, our family closer, and then he and I closer, because there was never a question about like, where do we go from here? How do we continue to make us work? It was, we in this for the long haul. Now we just got to figure out just how to take the next steps in our life as a whole.
Right.
And understand what just happened over these past 5 months.
Because at this point, you already had an older daughter.
Yes.
So how old was she at this time?
7, 8?
No.
Wait, yes, she was. Yes, she was. She was born in 2008. No, she was born in 2007. So she was 8. I was right. She was 8. Like,
Can I touch on that?
Yeah.
So from my standpoint, as she said, when she went into labor, we had just got home, and I didn't think much of it, and so once we got to the hospital and they told us what was going on, the church we were at the time, my pastor was supposed to be out of town, so I had to cover the pulpit. And at first, I wasn't going to preach. And then she said, "Baby, go ahead and preach." My dad went with me. I went to change. I'll never forget it. We were at Penn Station, up there by Hughes.
Okay.
And got a phone call. You need to. Where y'all at? I was like, "Y'all still in church?" No, we ain't in church. We get something to eat. Brother tired. Just got finished preaching. And they basically saying you need to get back to the hospital. And nobody would tell me, what
so
was
that's bad. Nobody tell you.
And so I'm like, what's going on? Well, just get back to the hospital. All right, we'll be there in 5 minutes. No, you ain't no 5 minutes. Get here now. I'm like, all right. So as soon as I got off the elevator, they're rushing her down the hallway.
Wow.
And she's like, "That's my husband right there." And so I only had I had to be like Batman, get in the booth, and I only had maybe a minute to change. And so the doctor comes out and says, after they debrief me what's going on, "Mr. Johnson, we need you to make a decision." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" "Well, the infection has spread, and you got a choice to make. It's either you save one of the babies, or you don't save the babies, or you save your wife. And you don't have time to think about it or have a family discussion on, we need to do this now." And so in my mind, I'm trying to process, what am I getting ready to do?
That's tough.
And how do I go and tell my family what's getting ready to happen? And so I had to share with her that this is the reality of what's going on, and we need to make a decision right now. I'll tell the family once whatever we decide to do, we don't have long. We already know the process, what we need to do, and to have more children. But I ain't ready to lose you.
Right.
So I had to make a decision to save my wife, and possibly, prayerfully, save at least one of our twins. And so I told the doctors, do what you need to do to save her. If that means we lose one of the twins, I'm not ready to do that or accept that, but I'm not ready to lose her.
Right.
And so they went and did what they did, and I had to go back and share with the family, this is the reality of what's getting ready to take place. And I think that was the first time that I broke down. I stepped out the room to excuse myself, walked in somebody else's room and broke down And
Yeah.
lady, what was in the room, she didn't know what was going on. She just saw this bald head black man.
Yeah, hold on. There was somebody else in the room. Like you just went
No,
into
so
somebody
and
else's room.
I went, when you're not thinking clearly when stuff like that going on. I just walked in the first room I saw and just broke down.
Right.
So from that point on, it was just like, it was like being in a daze. Like
Mm-hmm.
what is happening? This is happening so fast. And when the twins passed, I was not many people know this, but I don't mind sharing it now. Um, both the twins passed in my arms. Um, and so that was another, one of those moments like, you know what? And I hate to, maybe it's the preacher in me, but
Go ahead.
Romans 8:28 is one of my favorite verses, where it says all things work together for our good. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people like quoting that scripture, but we don't like to deal with the all things.
Right.
All things does not necessarily mean everything is going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I question my faith, Lord. Why us? I got friends who don't take care of their kids.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
know what I mean? Who don't want to spend time with their kids. Why us? But in those moments, we had to trust God. And as my mom just said, but God. And we had to lean on our family. Like, this ain't fair. Why are we going through this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's people, it's people, not whether they in the church, ain't in our church that we work with, that don't do right by their kids. But
Right.
I have to possibly bury mine. Nah, this ain't fair. Lord, I don't agree with you on this one. This
Right.
ain't right. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But but having that that inner circle to where I could vent and have people actually pray with us and pray for us and allow us to be vulnerable and honest with our feelings and our faith is what really got us through all this.
Yeah.
As Lucy said, it made us stronger. That if we can make it through this, we don't know how long we're gonna be on this side of the storm, or when we're gonna, get our joy back.
Mm-hmm.
But we in this together.
That's the
And
important part. Yeah, you knew you had each other.
yeah, yes, ma'am.
Man, that's powerful. So, I mean, I think that translates to everybody. Like anybody who's listening, either now on the replay of this, you don't have to have gone through the exact same situation, but it's the same lessons apply. We all go through different things. And sometimes it doesn't seem fair, but if we hold on to God's word and our faith, and hopefully you have some people around you who are like minded, then it will all work together in the end for good. So let's fast forward. Um, you at some point have a discussion about growing your family.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us about that.
We tried in vitro again. Um, had a couple of miscarriages in between there. Um, and at one point, she said, "What do you?" She's always wanted to adopt, and she brought it up to me and was like, "What do you think about adoption?" At first, I'm like, I don't know about that. You know what I mean? I don't know. Let's try again. And but
Hmm.
then it became to, as she said, it's a health risk.
Yeah.
How much more do we want to put her body through, and for us to go through mentally, physically, and spiritually? And she is my number one concern. And so, even to this day, if she says she wants to do it again, as long as she's okay with, however the result may be, I'm fine with it. I'm a supporter. And
Hmm.
so when we came to adopting, it was just like, oh, let's go for it. We talked to our oldest daughter to see if something she was ready for, and her feelings about it. And
Hmm.
she's always been wanting I want, as long as I'm her thing was, as long as I'm the oldest.
Okay.
I don't care what y'all do as long as I'm the oldest.
Right.
And she was in support of it, and so we were blessed to find, not find, but be introduced to our sons, and the Lord blessed us 2 years ago to where we legally adopt them.
That's amazing. So you have two sons now. And your daughter lives with you some of the time because she lives out of state.
Yeah, she's in
correct?
Georgia.
Okay. So the ages of the children, so it wasn't infant adoptions.
No.
Because tell us about, the system and how it is for older kids in the system to be adopted.
So there's a website called Adopt US Kids, and they list kids from any state in any state in USA on this website, and you can look at them. And these are generally kids that are harder placements, medically fragile, severe mental health, teenagers, or what it be when they want to have a sibling set. Sibling sets are always hard to get adopted, especially if they're boys. In addition to Ivory always wanting to be the oldest, she didn't want any more sisters.
Okay.
So, but John also didn't want any girls, and I think that came in reference to still healing from the twins.
Yeah.
So we're actually licensed foster to adopt. So we went through the training to become licensed foster parents, but our ultimate goal was to adopt. So we, instead of fostering kids and then eventually getting to adopt them, we went ahead and looked at kids that have already been in the permanent custody of the state. We looked at those kids first. So we looked at a whole bunch of kids. We were matched with some, but when our sons came about, they were like, "Oh, you all are a perfect fit." But we didn't go in this. We wanted one.
Okay.
And when we originally met them, it was 3 of them, all brothers. But the middle one, he made the decision that he wanted to be adopted alone. So we adopted the oldest and the youngest one. It's been a journey. It's been a journey, but we wouldn't change it. What we learned is because they were in the system for 5 years. So it's hard to break the system out of them. Even almost 3 years in, it's still kind of hard to break certain things out of them. And, they're still learning, and we're seeing things as they mature and get older, when we look back at the information they provided with us in regards to their biological parents.
Okay.
Like our youngest son, he has behavior issues that has escalated. So our thing is we have to do what's best for him in order to help him. Because we tell him all the time, you already have 2 odds stacked against you. You're Black and you're a male. But growing our family, it's been a journey. Ivory was with us the first time we met them. She's been a part of it. When we went through the process, there were certain parts we wouldn't do unless she was present. So we always make sure that she is a part of the decisions that we make. Even now, as we're still foster parents, if they call us for a foster placement, we talk to our kids like, "Hey, they calling us about this placement or that placement or a respite, whatever it may be. What are your thoughts? How do you feel?"
So it's open communication amongst children.
It is. It is.
Yeah. That's important because any decision that you make, like bringing people into the home, it does affect whoever's there. So that's good that you all have conversations about it, and it's not just this is what's happening. Somebody's coming sleeping in your room tonight. Yeah.
We try to be open and honest with them, let them know what's going on. If they're in agreement with it, we tell our workers, yes, go ahead. That's fine. But if the kids say no, we ain't, because even though we don't want to steal their time from them.
Yeah.
And so or we don't want them to feel, especially with our boys, um, that we are neglecting them for somebody else. Because as Reese
Right.
said, it's still an adjustment,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's going on 3 years. It's still an adjustment for them. And so one of the things that we intentionally do is with our oldest daughter, when she's here for the summer, we will set up one-on-one time with her so she doesn't feel like she's left out. And
Mm-hmm.
and with our boys, we do the same with them. And so it's been, as Reese said, it's been a journey, but it's been a good ride.
Yeah.
Every day is not perfect, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Uh,
And if anybody is friends with you on social media, so Reese, like a lot of your posts will have hashtag this journey has brought us joy.
Mhm.
So talk about that, like how the hashtag came about and when you started using it, and
Okay.
yeah.
So the hashtag came about at the death of our twins. Um, John was like, he was like, I want a good hashtag to use that will reference our twins. And we were sitting there, and my little brother Gino was like, this journey has brought us joy. He just
Just said
uh,
it.
so Uncle Gino gets credit for the hashtag.
Okay.
So that's where that came from, using their names. And we just use it because even with the pregnancy, the twins passing, like that journey has still brought us. Um, that journey has still brought us to, like, it has just strengthened us in so many ways. Yes, we know that God does things for a reason, and we don't always understand, and I still don't understand. 7 years later, I don't understand, but that's the plan he had. His plan was greater than the plan we had for our twins. So we reflect on them, we acknowledge them every year on their birthdays.
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's still a joyful journey even though they're not here.
Yeah. Yeah, that takes a lot to that takes a lot of faith to get to that point where you can focus on, what positive has come out of your journey.
can
We
I
have
answer
a
your next question?
Yes, I was just about to say, can somebody answer this question? What does respite time look like in that setting?
It all depends. You may get a child for the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the circumstances they are coming out of, and what's going on. Or it may be a placement to where they say, "Hey, can they? Do you mind them coming with you all until we find a safe place for them to go?" That can be, like I said, a weekend, a week,
A
um,
month.
a month, or like our our foster son. He's been with us for
A little over
a
a
little
year.
over a year,
Wow.
and that went from a weekend, a couple of days, to now it's just over just over a year.
Yeah,
So even with him, we don't treat we don't treat any child that comes into our home different than our own kids.
that's
Um,
good.
they
Yeah.
have the same access that our kids have,
Mm-hmm.
same responsibilities, the
Mm-hmm.
same rules apply. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so when we take family trips, we get approved for them to go, because we don't want them to feel left out or feel different than
Right.
they're already down about their circumstances
Mm-hmm.
and not
Right.
feeling appreciated or loved. And
Mm-hmm.
so whenever we get a child that comes in for respite care, we try to acclimate them into um, our lifestyle and make them feel welcome. Does it always work? No. But any child that we are fortunate or blessed to look after, we want them to feel a part of the family.
So I
For
think
me,
you've taken a turn, John, from saying, "Nah, I don't know about adoption and all that." You seem like you've really evolved and
yes, ma'am.
embraced that now.
Yes, ma'am. It's I love working with kids. I love kids in general, and so sometimes kids have a way of pulling stuff out of you that you didn't think was in you.
Mm-hmm.
And so my boys have definitely done that. it's been a roller coaster ride. Being a girl dad all my life is different than boys are different than raising girls.
Yeah, they are.
So I had to make some adjustments in my parenting, and and so my boys the last 3 years I'll say have they've challenged me in a good way, but at the same time I had to want to say relearn how to parent, um, because their circumstances on how our daughter grew up is totally different.
Mm-hmm.
So in ways that we would discipline our daughter, we can't discipline them because they come from abuse.
Right. Right.
So whooping them makes them reflect upon being abused. And
Right.
so
But we still do it.
you got that right.
No, we try not to. We try not to, but sometimes it's just
Sometimes you gotta get a little lick in.
Hey.
our 9-year-old. He put us to the test. Like, oh goodness.
But yeah, that's my go ahead.
No. I would go ahead and finish. You ready to say something else?
No, I was just going to go ahead, babe.
I'm about to say
It's just you have to just be mindful of your when you're dealing with kids who are in the system. There's circumstances, and knowing that um, how you may have been raised may not work for them.
Right.
Because there's all type of abuse that they have. Some of them, or majority of them, have been through, whether it's sexual, physical, mental. There's stuff we're still learning about our boys 3 years later that they are opening up to us and sharing with us.
Yeah.
And so it's just being mindful of how to love them where they are and teaching them how to grow and navigate through that. So
That's what Jesus does for us, right?
yes,
He
ma'am.
loves us where we are. So is this, well, I didn't ask you this. Is this your first time that you've kind of shared your story, or have you shared it before in like a large setting?
in a large setting, this would be the first time, but we used to go to, there's a girl who also experienced the death of her child, and she created the Angel Baby Network. But we went to that a couple of times. For me, I talk about it more than John does. John is really probably just not at the point where he is okay with talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was a healing thing.
Yeah.
But he would talk about it with me, but like with other people, he really wouldn't. He would, acknowledge what they're saying, but not necessarily talk about it.
Right.
So this
So
would
the
be
Angel Baby Network,
Mhm.
for anybody who's listening, it sounds like that's a resource for people who have lost. Now, is that local or is it?
Yes, that's local. Mhm.
Okay, so that's in Cincinnati.
Mhm.
Is there any organization that you would suggest, like for people who are thinking about adopting or fostering, especially like those demographics that aren't normally adopted?
It's really, I think someone put the website Adopt US Kids. Looking on there, you can see profiles. The profiles, of course, paint pretty pictures of the kids. So you do have to ask for history in order to really know and understand what the child or children have been through. There are a lot of groups on Facebook. Some of them I kind of had to remove myself from because I was healing in a different way, and going in that group sometimes would be so depressing. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, but everybody heals differently. So I had to remove myself from a few groups I found on Facebook that I never really spoke. I would just kind of read it. But some people, we all heal differently. We all process things differently. So that became difficult for me. For John, he's never done any groups or anything like that. But John would also like internalize things.
Yeah.
So like I had to learn how to pull that out of him. I remember very vividly after the twins passed, he had 3 days off from work. I had maternity leave, so I had 6 weeks.
Yeah.
He went back to work, and I remember he came home. He was like, "Everybody keep asking me how you doing." And I was like, okay. Then I thought about it, like, but nobody asked him how he was doing.
Yeah.
And I have a client, and she experienced the death of her twins over 30 some years ago. And when she found out about my twins, she looked at me. She said, "I'm gonna tell you one thing: don't close your husband out."
Wow.
And she's like, because when she lost her twins, no one talked about miscarriages or stillborns or anything to that effect. And she's like, me and my husband had to learn how to rebuild ourselves because, she had the twins and woke up, they were gone. Her husband had already had them cremated. She didn't get to hold them. She didn't get to do anything. And I'm like, oh. So they had to rebuild. And she said she really had to learn, do not close your husband out, because men are different. They process things differently. Yeah. And like he shared, like they didn't die in my arms. They died in his arms. They took their last breath in his arms. And of course, people naturally they think about the mother, because the mother is the one that carries the baby and delivers the baby. Well, that doesn't take anything away from him.
Right.
So
that's an idea. So upcoming show topic, it's coming, guys. Men and their mental health. We're going to talk about it.
That's a good one.
We're going to talk about it. That? Yes.
I think for me, I didn't, with the groups and stuff, I didn't participate. I'm not going to say I don't do well with groups, but I just wasn't ready to talk about it with people that I didn't know. We tried grief counseling, but I got tired of trying. I'll give the lady credit for, she was doing her job, if you will. But I didn't want to keep replaying what happened over and over in my head.
Right.
So that's what was hard for me, and why I internalized it. Is just like, I don't want to keep talking about it. I wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
But I got ready. If anybody would ask, how did you guys deal with this, or how did you, what, the who, what, where, when, how, I was fine talking about it, because I was at a point to where, one, I was at acceptance, and then I was able to acceptance, processing it, and then being willing to open to share what my experience, what not only my experience, but what our experience was. And so I still don't do, to this day, I still don't do groups. I'm not there yet.
But
that's okay.
But I think when she told me about this tonight, it was more so like her first thing. First thing she said to me was, "I'm concerned about you."
Wow.
Because
she knows you.
Yeah, this is the first time we have publicly, in a setting like this, talked about our whole situation, and that made it a little bit more easier for me and comfortable for me to come on tonight, because she was basically reassuring to me that, hey, if you're not comfortable, we ain't gonna do it. But if you, well, no matter what, I'm here, and so that's the journey that brings me joy, and knowing that my wife has my back, and like you just said, she knows me, and we know each other. So to the fellas, to the man on here that are watching, or that may watch the replay, don't be ashamed to express yourself, or to seek out guidance when it comes to your mental health, and understanding where you are, going through your process, and getting the help that you need, and having people who actually you can vent to, you can express yourself to, but at the same time be willing to receive their feedback, their love. Let people love on you while you are hurting, and build you up. Because too many of us are taking our own lives because we are internalizing too much stuff. It's causing too much stress, causing sickness, and too many of us are leaving this earth early when we don't have to because of stress.
Okay, sermon.
Yes, look. Let me pass the collection plate.
Right.
And so I see Miss Maria. Yes, ma'am, it is. But yeah, so I think this has been part of my, actually, as Miss Maria said, this is part of my healing process, being able to trust my support system and knowing that I don't always have to be the rock.
Right.
And
and being aware of, I think, and telling people what you need.
yes,
Because,
ma'am.
you know, when I lost my mom, my least favorite thing that people would say to me is, how you doing? How you doing? I'm like, how do you, like, I wanted to say, how do you think I'm doing? Like, you don't even have to ask that. But people don't know what to say. So,
They
you know,
don't.
they just say things. You know, you kind of just let it go.
Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Now, after you went through yours, how many people did you find out lost kids?
Lost kids?
Mm-hmm. Or so after for us, so we like everybody
lost a baby when we
everybody
lost
lost
our baby.
Oh, then they told you about it?
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
lost a baby.
Yeah.
And it was just like, we would go places like, I don't want to talk about that right now.
Yeah, it could be a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I think for me, you know, I started telling people what I wanted and didn't want. Like, as far as how I was coping with things, like, look, don't need you to do that. I don't want to talk about it unless I come to you and say I want to talk about it. Like, don't strike up no conversation. Don't expect me to cry on your shoulder. Some people want you to break down in front of them. They do. They want to be that one who can comfort you. Like, oh, it's going to be okay. Like, I don't want to cry in front of you. I'm not going to do that. Like, this is what I want. So I think it's okay. Like, when you're healing and you're like, look, you know, I don't want to go to groups. I don't want to do X, Y, and Z. Like, this is how I think I need to process. And when I need to reach out to you, just be available. And if I reach out, then let's do it. But until then, just kind of let me do this how I think I'm trying to do it. Like, that's okay. Like, any way we do it is okay. I think we need to normalize. We can all grieve and heal in different ways, and it's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And of course, the biggest question I always get afterwards: when y'all gonna try again?
Oh my! It's none of your business.
Not knowing, like, well, we have to pay to try. Like, you gonna donate?
Right.
No, it
ain't cheap.
It ain't. It's not cheap. And a lot of people didn't know that we went through IVF. So I think maybe a year and a half ago, I posted something about being, about female infertility. And I remember somebody called me like, why you post that? Why you say that? Because I am one. Right. I have female infertility, in order I can't just lay down and get pregnant,
Exactly.
I have to, what we used to call the incubator babies,
Right.
So, but people always say, when you gonna try again? And I'm like, that's one of those things where you say people don't know what to say.
They don't. They just say things.
Are y'all gonna try again? Maybe. I mean, honestly, like, our family doesn't even know how many times we have actually tried IVF since the loss of our kids.
And IVF is not for punks.
It's not.
People don't know that.
We did it just between us and just to see if it would happen. So that we didn't want our family to have to go through the same disappointment that we had to go through.
Yeah.
And even now, our 9-year-old, he's at a point, he's like, I want a little brother or sister. And I'm like, well, why? He was like, somebody to play with. But I think it's because he feels left out in the house because everybody else are teenagers and they kick him out his room. And, we kind of explained like, well, I can't get pregnant naturally. I can't do this. And you know what he told us? Just adopt.
He said, you've done it before. Go ahead.
Yeah. We're like, okay. So.
Well, this has been a great conversation, and I'm so glad you guys agreed to be guests. And I hope it was helpful for you all to be guests. But I know everybody who is commenting and watching and listening, everybody is being greatly helped by this conversation. So keep doing it how you want to do it. Live your life,
Yes,
heal
ma'am.
how you want to heal, and we will all be supportive of your journey. And any final comments?
Well, thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, babe. I'll let you go first.
I won't say nothing.
I was going to say
He
thank you
being
for.
so nice because he on here with y'all. Go ahead, babe. I'll let you go first. Oh, this is nice. I need to cut the camera on more often.
Right.
I was going to say thank you for inviting us on and letting us share our story. And everybody that's watching, for those that are may come back on and watch later, I just pray something that we said can encourage you and let you know that you can survive your storm.
Benediction.
Look, may his peace be with you
Right.
till we meet again.
Hey,
I love it. I love it.
It's enough pastors on here.
It is. There's quite a few preachers in the comments.
It's enough pastors on here that know we can't help it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If it's in you, it's in you. But we appreciate you, and to all our friends and family that logged on. Thank you for supporting us tonight. We love you all, and hopefully we can do this again.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We'll catch you next episode.
All right. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.